Hi, my name is Tom Morrill, and I am the managing partner of a firm called The Collaborative. We help financial advisors with practice development and growth by providing sales training, sales consulting, sales coaching, sales tools, techniques, and roundtables. For today, I'm going to talk to you about listening and storytelling for greater effectiveness. We should be together about 30 minutes. You're going to walk away with some great tools, tips, and techniques. And I can assure you that the time you spend with me will be well worth the investment. So let's get started. The three areas of focus for our discussion today is learning to listen well, storytelling in context, and presenting with confidence. All of this is around effective client engagement. So what is an engaged client? Well, they're satisfied and loyal. We have increased share of wallet, and they're willing to do referrals, which are the linchpins of our business. And if you have a client engagement strategy in place, at the highest level, it's really got three main characteristics. One, you're working with the right clients. Two, you're having the right conversations. And three, you are asking the right questions. So what do they need from you? Simply put, they need information, they need your attention, they need to be reminded of what other solutions you have, and they need open communication. Now, seems relatively straightforward. It takes discipline. So, little cartoon here, but basically the theme is that when two people are working together, one person may ask another to do something, but because there are some challenges in listening, that the deliverable is not always what was expected. However, neither of the parties is wrong at all. It is all about the power of listening. Look, we're out of practice. It's not something we work on day in and day out. We have constant interactions all day long. So the only way we can make this happen is if we practice and focus on it. And the key here is when you're having a discussion, you're seeking to learn something. You're seeking to understand. You're seeking to validate that what they're saying to you is important to you from their perspective. And the way you do that really is to practice active and reflective responses while someone else is speaking. So let's talk about the concept of the presenting problem. Very often, our customers come to us, and they come to us with an issue. But that might not be the primary issue. It's our job to listen for what's underneath. What aren't they telling you? Now, they might not be telling you something because they don't understand it, not necessarily because they don't want to explain it. So these tools are used to help really move to the next level, to not take something at face value. Your client will appreciate you. So here's some techniques. You have active listening. Active listening is all about confirming to the speaker that you are listening. You can use body language. You can use statements as simple as, I hear you, that's interesting. They see that you are paying attention. Then you have reflective listening. Reflective listening is all about restating what you've heard. That is so important because the worst thing that can happen is that you are in a dialogue, you get to the end, and you spend a lot of time together, and you're misaligned. And don't ever forget the power of why. Why do you think this way? Why are you changing your thinking? Why are these circumstances impacting you? So now let's talk about storytelling. Storytelling enables us to give meaning and context to data and facts. Storytelling allows us to get to entrenched views and perceptions and potentially give them an opportunity to understand another point of view. Storytelling has a measurable impact. It takes something from that is, or a fact, and turns it into something that does. And it's much easier to walk away with something understanding what it does. And lastly, but not least importantly, one of the litmus tests is when someone walks away post-story, they understand it. They understand the point you were trying to make. And interestingly enough, they potentially can communicate it to others, which really is the true test of whether or not you were effective. And we basically make 98% of our decisions are based on emotion, 2% rational. Now, obviously we do our homework, we put all the facts together, but in the end, when it's all said and done, we make a decision based on how we feel about it. So a story or a yarn. It has a setup and a beginning, it has meat in the middle, and it comes to the conclusion at the end. Seems simple, right? Of course it is. But it's not always that easy for us to execute. Sometimes we miss the beginning, middle, or end. So take a moment. Think about a situation, whether it's with a client or just a business situation as it relates to your job and you'd like to tell a story about. Now, how could you change the inflection for that story so that the meaning actually changes, right? And you practice this. Now, you may not be sitting with someone else, but let me give you an example. I'm standing in front of someone, I look across the table at them, and I say, "You look good today." Now, I'm standing across from that person, I say the exact same thing, but I go, "You look good today." Same information, different inflection, different perception, right? Well, think about that story, and potentially it could be a story that you yourself have wrapped around negative as it relates to that particular client or business situation. How can you change it? Because by the way, when you change your inflection, you can also change it in your head. So let's keep thinking about that client or business situation, because I'm going to give you a minute to practice it in a couple of slides. So start thinking about who, why, when, what, and how. Who was the client or what was the situation? Why did they come to us or what were the circumstances? When they came or when we sat down, what was the problem that was presented? What did we do? And how did it benefit them or make them feel when it was all said and done? All right? So keep that in mind. Take a minute. Take out a piece of paper. Take that situation you were thinking about and just fill in the blanks. It doesn't have to be that complicated. Use something that's fresh in your mind and just take a minute and do it. And I'll be right back. Okay, you ready to wrap up? It's been about a minute. That wasn't that complicated. You have the information in your head. All you're really doing is organizing it in a manner where you can place it into a story. And the reason that's so important is you may want to tell someone else about it. If it's an internal situation, you may want to pass on what happened internally. If it's with a client, you may want to pass on to another client how the situation worked. So keep in mind, it's not that complicated. A couple of more important elements, first of all. Know your audience, who they are and what they care about. The message has to cater to them. You have to connect the stories to their circumstances. It has to have relevance and, as I mentioned earlier, context. Now, what you can do is you step back and you segment your client base by interests, hobbies, marital status, etc. Now, whatever categories or criteria you use, keep it relatively straightforward. But what will happen is that you will see patterns begin to emerge with your particular client base as it relates to their stories. And the reason that's important is because then you can begin crafting stories to tell others, crafting stories to repeat back to them so they can tell others. And what that enables you to do is really organize your thinking and your communicating and to practice a consistent process and message. Try it. It's well worth it. Now, confident communicating. It has 6 keys. Number 1, or key 1, know why. Why are you saying or doing something? Know who. Who are you saying it to? And not just their name. Create flow to the discussion or the communication. That means structure. Provide context, which is something we've spoken about. Watch style, which is something we haven't spoken about, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the 4 P's of human behavior. And then bring it to closure, which in essence is starting and then finishing and closing it out. Leaving an open-ended discussion in any communication is not positive. So, key number 1, know why. Okay? Key number 1, know why. What is the purpose of the presentation? Why do you hope to achieve it? What's the audience and the takeaway you want? You have to go in there with a purpose, and you have to stay focused on what you want and what you want them to do. Number 2, know who. Know your audience. Who are they? What do they care about? And why are they listening to you? People don't talk to you just to talk to you. They talk to you for a reason. Make sure you understand and you acknowledge that reason and you talk to it. Flow. It really is all about getting the information across in manageable and understandable chunks. Make your points and then support the points you're trying to make. Don't make too many points because then it'll get confusing. And don't provide so many facts that it gets overwhelming. Keep it straightforward, make your points, and support those points with data. Context, make the connection, key number 4. Okay, remember, everybody has a favorite radio station. What does that mean? It means WIIFM, what's in it for me? So your client, or whoever you're talking about, is walking into that discussion wanting to know what's in it for them. In preparation for those discussions, you have to make sure that you take that into account. In reality, what's in it for them, WIIFT. Key number 5 is match style. There are 4 P's of human behavior. Problems, which is how people address problems and challenges. People, which is how they handle situations as it relates to people in the context they make. Pace, which is really all about pace and consistency. And the procedure, which is how people react to procedures and constraints. Now, all of us have different levels of each one of these. And none is right or wrong. It's basically just tied to our behavior. And you have to take that into account when you're communicating to someone else. We're not necessarily going to be going into it in depth in this discussion, but we actually have created a book, which is the 5 Secrets. Those 5 Secrets, one of which talks about behaviors, and it's based on the DISC profiling system, which talks to dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance, which really lines up with the 4 Ps. Now, remember, based on that, many times people might not remember what you said, but they certainly are going to remember how you made them feel. And lastly, bring it to closure. The final key in presenting with confidence brings it back to the beginning, right? So we started out stating the objectives. We had a discussion. We talked through the points. We validated those points. We made sure we were speaking to the individual. But then we've got to bring it all back, restate what the objectives were, make sure that we all agree that they were accomplished, and don't miss confirming what happens next. Don't walk out of a meeting without something that needs to be done or ownership, even if what happens next may be, I will call you in 6 months. But at the end of the day, end where you began, restate your objectives. So what are the takeaways here? Practice active listening, always. Become a compelling storyteller, right? It takes practice. But as you can tell based on that little brief exercise that we just did, that it's not all that complicated. And it will have a significant impact. And commit to clear communication. Now that you're aware of it, now that you understand a bit of it, that communication and that focus on clearly communicating can have measurable impact on the specific discussions that you have. So you personally, what next steps are you going to take? Pick something that you're going to do out of all of this. Write down your commitment and then try it for 25 days. Okay? Change requires action. Action and change require repetition. The only way you can make any of this work, or even one of these things work for you, is to try it for 25 days. Studies say that that's how long it takes to create a new habit. So think about it. What will you do next to make this happen? What is the next step you will take? And what can you personally commit to? Don't commit to it if you can't do it. Make it realistic and attainable. So that brings our discussion to conclusion. I hope it was of value to you. I hope that you learned a great deal. I hope there's some tools, tips, and techniques that you can apply literally tomorrow. Now, if you have further questions, feel free to reach out to us at the Collaborative, and Beverly Flaxington, who founded the Collaborative, is a well-known thought leader, has written several books on these topics, and has great insights, and you can come to our website as well to see the things that we have to say. Obviously, my name is there with the email, and our website is just below that. There's one other thing I'd like to suggest that you go check out. We have a website called the Advisor Sales Academy, and what it is it's a portal that has access to training. It has provides access to webinars. It provides access to tools, tips, and techniques. It enables access to roundtables and discussion groups. It's an outstanding portal where you can go and really continue to sharpen your sword or hone your skills. So I want to take a minute. I want to thank you for spending these 30 minutes with me, and it's all about getting it done. So go out there and make it happen.